Ridley Scott's House of Gucci has now hit theatres around the globe, and after those great trailers, I went into the director's latest film not knowing what to expect. I'd seen a few reviews saying that it was fantastic, while others critiqued its runtime, a bizarre performance by Jared Leto, and the film being quite bland. To be honest, I didn't really know the full events of the Gucci story, but having now seen the film, I must say I had a hell of a time. In fact, it's probably my second favourite film of the year behind Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Was it long? Yes. Was Jared Leto's performance quite bizarre in points? Yes. And was it a bland telling? Absolutely not. I think this film is not afraid to be what it is supposed to be, a telling of a tragedy in 3 acts that we have seen before, but not as campy noir focused as Ridley Scott portrays on screen here. It's definitely going to be one of the most memeable movies of the year, but it will also move you emotionally and grab you with mostly excellent performances across the board. Before I get into my spoiler-free review of House of Gucci, if you want to see much more videos on films by auteur directors working today, like Ridley Scott, Denis Villeneuve, Christopher Nolan, and much more, then don't forget to support this video by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my spoiler-free review for Ridley Scott's House of Gucci. Now, while this isn't Ridley Scott's best film, it's one that completely surprised me. With the current landscape of entertainment feeding even more into cinematic fatigue, a movie like House of Gucci that intelligently merges the glamour, twisty drama, and top fashion is a drink I'd personally want to taste all night. The whole thing is built on the chemistry of Gucci's prime characters and the relationships within that, giving us a lot of dialogue, but that which is mostly integral from a drama standpoint, where this story leads, and what the characters are dealing with. It leaves you gasping at times while also laughing pretty loud in other moments. And this is all driven by Adam Driver and Lady Gaga, who share a chemistry that's rare and definitely not contrived. The complete potency and lunacy of their relationship is, from what I've read, portrayed pretty accurately in Scott's film. Lady Gaga plays Patrizia Reggiani, who starts off as a secretary for her father's garbage truck business, and later meets Adam Driver's Maurizio Gucci at a party, who she sees as an opportunity, not fully from a financial side, but mainly a personal level up. It's part love and part chance for her in the beginning, but a romance which will soon quite obviously fall off the rails and lead to all kinds of drama. But she initially sees it as a chance for her to live a life of reason, which is quite related to Maurizio, but from the opposite standpoint. Adam Driver's character is not interested in the business of high fashion, keeping his distance from his father Rodolfo, played by Jeremy Irons, and Uncle Aldo, played by Al Pacino. But once Patrizia dips her paws into him and they eventually get married, the structure of the family is rebuilt and given new life. What we witness is the honed intelligence and climb of Patrizia, who uses the conflict of family business, in particular with the clownish example of cousin Paolo Gucci, played by Jared Leto, to move things to her side of the aisle. But when this doesn't eventually go her way, this is when crime becomes infused into the high drama and is the only final option that she believes she can take. It's a 3-arc take on built romance, growth, and then finally deconstruction, interweaved perfectly by Ridley Scott in a cocktail of darkness, humour, and everything in between. But while there are huge figures at play in this story, and the performances help bring them across in such a strong way, the central frame that keeps everything together in Ridley Scott's film isn't Patrizia, Maurizio, or any individual Gucci, it's the entirety of Gucci as a fashion business empire. It's named House of Gucci for a reason, showcasing the problems when perceived freedom meets control, when strength creates perceived peace, and every character doing what they must to obtain it. Yes, there's battle and corruption at play, but what makes House of Gucci investing is the entire group of players at the table. A scene in the film, which is one of my favourites of the year, demonstrates this when Gaga's character claims that Maurizio is a monster, and he replies by saying, "I'm a Gucci." This all comes from the family structure that is unwrapped in front of us, showing a wealthy club stuffed with egotism and superiority, only to be brought down by a woman who only wanted a part of power, equally submerging into wrongdoings herself. Everyone is leading to destruction here, and Scott displays this quite brilliantly for a great mix of performances. From the elegant yet brutal sense of power that Lady Gaga aims at achieving, to the classic format of superiority from Al Pacino, and the absolute madness of Jared Leto. I must say, Leto's performance is quite bizarre because I found myself at times perplexed by his betrayal, but then in other moments I realised that this is who he is supposed to be, an eccentric artist used by the drives of Gaga in getting her piece of power. It's definitely not a masterpiece, but it's a great example of bringing everything into one package to mostly successful results. House of Gucci is a lush yet disturbing story of how this fashion tower collapsed to the ground. What must be acknowledged, even if you are mixed on the film, is that there is an extreme commitment by the filmmaker through the Italian culture and history of Gucci to bring a film that is full of character depth, moving past the one-dimensional approach we get in quite a lot of films today. We approach Patrizia being devalued from multiple angles, we witness the sometimes tense conversations that situate around a father's rejection of his son, and we get the tears yet hope from the fall that is Aldo. Each character is layered, and if there's any criticism, it's that the film doesn't have many moments of restraining this balls-to-the-wall approach, but quite frankly, this is something that I really appreciate. Yes, it's a long film, but once characters have been introduced and settled within the narrative, the fun and chaos begins to unravel. There's company debates and backstabbing, but the drive comes through tugging over the future that the brand of Gucci should embark on. Should it stay in the hands of the elder family man, or try to branch out and be better competition to global brands? The question asked is whether the future-thinking members can sustain their brand while keeping what they are. The question is very intriguing, but as we know in tales like this, tragedy always waits at the end of the tunnel. It reminded me of Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street in the way it was structured, casting a foreboding gloom over the rich who can't escape what's coming. We end up with a Scott film that is a modern tragedy, dipped in inspiration from the works of Francis Ford Coppola, Scorsese, and other great artists. He's regathering the sense of the cautionary story and the search for paradise at the same time. Overall, House of Gucci is a movie with bits of everything: top costume design, framing and sets, to stellar performances, and a fascinating story that will be remembered, even if it isn't his best work. He may be up and down from film to film as a director, but it's films like House of Gucci that reframe why Ridley Scott is one of the greatest living filmmakers who hasn't quite lost his way just yet. But that was my spoiler-free review for House of Gucci. Ridley Scott's film may have a long runtime of over 2 hours and a half, but it's a film that isn't shy at going fully into the story of the Guccis and giving us a structured tale of everything that happened. You have the opening act of romance as Patrizia meets Maurizio, the second act of how the Gucci empire comes out of the fire through Patrizia's new way of thinking, and then a final act of the love and empire coming together, resulting in the fall for every person involved. Of course, each character has a different outcome in the events, but Gaga's character is the one who is convicted because of her not wanting to move on. Her decision to cause crime is not one of desire, but pure selfishness. It's a sense that nobody can have what she cannot have. Gaga and many other actors here have fantastic transformations, primed to display the traits of characters who descend into tragedy. It's a true telling of how power and wanting something out of reach can possess someone into never wanting to let go. Quite honestly, I think after A Star Is Born and now House of Gucci, Lady Gaga is really making a name for herself in acting, and after this performance, I can see her getting another Oscar nomination this year. Some rock stars can make one great performance then drop off, but Gaga is proving how good of an actress she is as she puts her all into capturing the madness, emotion and drama that this character needed to display. It will be interesting to see how the audience reacts to this, and while it's not my favourite Ridley Scott film by any imagination, it's one that I walked out incredibly surprised by. It had strong performances, both reserved and exaggerated, a well-paced story, long but intriguing, and a clear message towards the possession of power. I was really impressed by it, and although it calls back to things seen in the films of Francis Ford Coppola and Martin Scorsese, Ridley Scott has put his stamp on this crime drama and has done it in style. I'm giving House of Gucci a rating of 8.75 out of 10. But what did you think of Ridley Scott's latest film, and do you agree that it's one of the best films of the year? I think it's one that is going to create a mix of opinions, as we've seen thus far with the critics, because it's not the kind of movie for everyone. But for me, this sits firmly in the middle of Ridley Scott's filmography, and I think it was a great blend of humour, drama, crime, and the bizarre nature of the Gucci brand. Again, it's all subjective, and I appreciate a range of reactions and reviews, so let me know down below in the comment section what you personally thought towards the film, alongside where you would place it with the other films in Ridley Scott's extended filmography. For lots more videos surrounding director-driven films like House of Gucci, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.